Hello and welcome to Sketch Together. My name is Paulo Stanley and this is part of a crash course on InVision Studio. In this lesson, we're gonna get to know the UI in Studio, the layers list, the inspector, the toolbar, the canvas, all the basic stuff that will get you started. Let's do it. Let's start by taking a look at the UI. Here on top of the canvas, you're going to see the toolbar. Here on the far left, you're going to see tools that allow you to add rectangles, rounded rectangles, circles, pen, text, images, and artboards. Here in the middle, you're going to see the name of the file, but once you select something like a shape, let me add a rectangle, you're going to see different tools here that allow you to create an interaction component and do different things to your path. On the top right, you're going to see different tools that allow you to preview your prototype and also share to InVision. You can share to a prototype, a freehand, or even mirror on your phone. On the right side, you're going to see the inspector. The inspector is dynamic. It changes depending on the element that you have selected. So for example, if I have a rectangle, you're going to see here on the top the transform and align properties. You can change the X position, the Y position, you can rotate it. You can also flip your element horizontally or vertically. This section here allows you to pin your element to your artboard or to different components. We're going to see this in a different video, but you can start playing around with it. The different properties here change depending on the type of layer that you have selected. So for example, here I just have a shape selected, so I can change the fill, strokes, and I can add some effects. But if I have a text layer selected, then you're going to see the different elements that I can change for typography. So I can change the different font that I want to use, the different typeface, the weight, and all the different elements that you would expect from to change on typography. The left panel has all the layers, pages, and artboards. So over here, you're going to see there are two tabs on the top. The first one is to show the pages and the layers. If you want to see the layers, you just enter a page. But if you want to go and see back into the pages, you click here and then you're going to see all the pages that are available in this document. If you click on them, then you see the different pages. Once you want to go into the layers, you just click here and then you see the different layers that are inside this page. And inside here in the left panel, you're going to see that all of these allow you to see all the different layers that are inside different artboards. For example, this is an artboard. And the artboards pretty much work just as any other layer. You can add a background color, you can align them, you can transform them, but they're different as in they contain different elements inside. And then you can collapse them here on the layers list. The second tab on the left panel would allow you to see all the different components inside your document. So all of these are different components that I have here. You can just drag them inside your document if you want to. If you want to edit a component, you can also click here and then go into the master of the component and then change it. And then if you want to go back to where you were working in your design, you just click here on the back button. Now, let's understand the difference between layers, groups, and component. Any element that you add to your document in the canvas is just a layer. So for example, here, this is just a rectangle or a square. This is just a circle, and this is just a text layer. But you can turn these into a group. So for example, this, you're going to see that it's different here in the layers list because it has a little folder, because this is part of a group. You can turn different layers into a group by just selecting multiple layers and then pressing Command G, and boom, now it's a group. And you can change this name of this group here. So over here, this is a group. You can also rearrange the elements here using the layers list. So I can put that this rectangle is below the oval and so on. And you can see this is also represented here on the canvas. If I want the oval to be below the rectangle, then I can just drag it here. And then you will see that now the oval is below the rectangle. Now, sometimes you want to reuse different components inside your document. So for example, let's say that this is a button. So this component, if I want to edit it, you're going to see here on the layers list, the icon is a little bit different. And also even the color of the elements, it's different because this is part of a component. You can still edit the different elements here. So I can edit this to hello, friends. And I can even change the color of different elements. This is part of a component, but I can still make those changes here. But if I want to edit the master where everything else is applied, so for example, let's say that I move this and I want to change the font of this element. You're going to see that here in the component, I cannot change the typography. I can actually not change the weight or the type of typeface that I use. To do that, I have to select the component and then go over here where it says Edit Master. Once I'm here in the master, I can start editing anything else about my layers. So for example, I can turn into, instead of a medium font, I want it to be a heavy font weight. And let's say that this guy is over here and the font is over here. If I go back to my design, you're going to see that these changes were applied to all the different instances of the same component. The Studio also allows you to nest components inside more complex components. So for example here, I have multiple layers that I want to turn into a component that is just a card. But also I have these elements that I want to turn into their own components for buttons. So probably I can just start by creating components out of these buttons. So I'm just going to go here to the component tool. I'm just going to call it, I like that name. If I leave this check mark turned on, then it's going to take me to the component master once I'm done. See, now I'm here and I can make any changes that I want to. I think I like it. I'm going to go back. And now this button, it's a component. And I can see it here that is different from this one. The icon is different. And when I go inside, you're going to see that the elements are different because now it's a component. I'm going to do the same with this guy. I'm going to say that no, I don't want to go to the component master. I'm going to say done. And now these two elements are components. And now I can actually select all of these elements, including the other components that I already made, and create one bigger component. So this one, I'm going to call it card. And I'm going to go to the component master. And now you're going to see here in the component master, I have these components that live inside this other component. And I can go ahead and see all these components that live here in the libraries. And I can just go back to my design by clicking here. There you go. It's important to understand how to use artboards. Artboards can be seen as the different screens of an app. Each screen could represent a different state or a different step in a flow. In this example, we have two artboards, both of the same app, representing different states. The one on the left represents a gallery view, and the one on the right represents a detailed view of one of the movies. You can then connect these artboards using interactions. Now, let's go over some useful tips about artboards. The home icon in the name of an artboard will represent where a prototype starts. So for example, here on the layers list, you're going to see this home icon. That represents where my prototype will begin. You can change this by just going to the name of the artboard, right-clicking, and then set artboard as home. Now if I go to play my prototype will start here. You can also change the background fill of an artboard. For example, here I have a background that is black. If I were to remove it, you will see that by default it's white. But you can add multiple background colors if we want to. So for example, here I press the plus button and I can just start adding a color. You can also add a layout grid to your artboards. Over here, you set how many columns you want to use, for example 12, and then what's the gutter, for example 32. And you can also do even horizontal layout grids. You can also turn on and off a grid inside your artboard, so you can see if you want to create something that is pixel perfect. So for example, let's say that it's a grid of 16 pixels, and then you see it there. You can make an artboard scrollable by going here and then just selecting the type of scrolling you want to have. So for example here, I want to be able to scroll through this vertically. So I'm just going to select vertically. And then if I go to my prototype, now I'm able to scroll through this page. Something that is also really useful is pinning some of your elements so they don't scroll. So for example, I have this title and I want it to be pinned to the top. So when I scroll through this page, this title doesn't move. So I'm going to just pin it here. If I preview my prototype, you're going to see that the title is there. Now let's create an artboard. Just pressing A, you can start dragging and drawing an artboard, and then you can put elements inside it. Something that is really useful is that you can press A and then select one of the default sizes for an artboard. This way you don't have to memorize the sizes of the different devices. So let's say that I create one for iPhone 8. There you go. Now it is the size of an iPhone 8. I can do the same with a previous artboard. If I wanted to select this one, and right now if you see the device, it says custom, but I can go ahead and change it to another device. So for example, iPhone SE. There you go. It changes the size of the artboard to the size of that device. And that's it on the basics of Studio. You can download the file that I'm using so you can follow along on the different tips and tricks. This is part of a crash course on Studio, so stay tuned for more lessons in the future. Thank you.